Welcome into our lives.
And welcome to the Expanders Club podcast.
We're so happy to have you.
Join us as we embark on a journey of deep exploration, soul searching, and asking the hard questions.
With the goal of truly understanding the most aligned, empowered, and purposeful versions of ourselves.
We want to live an extraordinary life, and we're willing to dig deep to find out what it takes.
Buckle up. You're about to meet a new version of yourself, an extraordinary one. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Expanders Club podcast. My name is Brooke.
Hi, guys. My name is Maddie.
And we are so happy to have you here. We took a little break for a couple weeks, getting our, a little digital detox, getting some summer vibes going. But we're back and we're stoked. We're stoked to be here. Matt, how was your time off?
It really felt like summer the last couple of weeks. It just hit all at once. And it felt good to get a little digital detox. I think that was necessito. So good for us for leaning into what we preach.
Good for us. I highly recommend it. I think for me, I was on vacation with my family, so that helped, but time just slowed down. And also within that time, even though I was on vacation, I did a lot more, and it felt good not dragging my phone from room to room, which why do we do that? Constantly have our phone in our hand or on us or near us.
I catch myself doing that all the time. Literally when I don't have my phone on me, sometimes damn, I really want to take a photo of my food. I'm going to go get my phone. That's the one thing that I always want to have my phone on me for, which is an obsession. Got to get over that. But it is right. It's why are we attached to it? I'm doing a really intentional effort of every time I go for a walk. I'm dog sitting at the moment and taking this dog for 2 walks a day, as a good dog owner should, I guess. And I'm not taking my phone every time I go for the walk. And it feels so good to actually really be present in that. It's my sacred time to just fully be not distracted.
Yeah. The mental presence or the psychic presence is a real freaking thing. And it changes your energy and it changes the energy in the room and the people around you. I think I told you that I see it so much with Bowie, my daughter. When my mind is not thinking about a million different things and I'm just so present and in the moment, it completely changes her attitude, her how she reacts to things, her joy in the moment, whether she can register or not. When I have chaotic chaos and things going on in my head, it definitely impacts her. So that was really cool to see and have some real deep quality time with her.
That's so beautiful. I got a beautiful message from a friend yesterday saying thank you for your presence. I feel like you're so present with me and it's such a gift and so rare. And I reflected on that. And really when you have those present moment conversations where you're really there and you're really listening, you just remember them so much more deeply because you just feel it. You're oh yeah, this is human connection is it.
I mean, it's so silly. And I wonder if we'll look back at this time and be how silly our attention and our mind and our energy, the things that have so much value, and yet we give them away so easily. To what? To freaking watching other people, videos of other people on social media?
Our ancestors and the natives are just sitting there laughing at us, being you guys, finally you're working it out. All you had to do is get off your screens and live in the moment and be present with what's around you. Yeah.
It's interesting because these tools were created to empower us, and yet we use and abuse them in a way that is really disempowering, and then have to wean ourselves off of the addictions that they've created.
And they're draining. They are draining. I think when you really know what it's like to be present and you know what it's like to be off your phone and you get a taste of that and then you get back on it, you're oh my goodness.
It's exhausting. That's why
my nervous system is just in overdrive and I feel wired. My head's why have I got all of these images in my head that they're not mine? They're not my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, and the stories, I mean, all the things we could talk about, we could do, and maybe we will do a whole episode on this. And like, I'm just hoping for you and I, like, you know, we got a little taste of it. Like, let's hope we can hold on to it. I've already caught myself a few times, like mindlessly scrolling or, you know, and it's like, stop. I'm stopping. I'm doing it, but I'm catching myself faster and putting the phone away. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this evolves. And it's like, it's one of those things with so many things. It's like, we know what we should do. Now it's about like creating the discipline to do it.
Yeah, exactly. We have to continue to practice what we preach. So here we are. And we're back with a powerful episode today.
Yes.
Interviewed a friend of mine, Megs. She is a former world championship swimmer and is now a holistic health, life, career pivoter coach. I think because she had to pivot her career, I mean, she's done it multiple times now, but where she started was a very different upbringing to a lot of us. She started young in her life as a professional swimmer. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting hearing what that life was actually like, how she was so structured, so disciplined, and the way that her relationship, like with her mindset, her physical body, that was such a huge focus. And the things she learned about so young, I'm like, whoa, girl got exposed early.
Yeah, it was funny listening to it, and I was just like caught myself thinking like, man, maybe I should get Bowie into like get her excited about some sport or something like that, because you know, Megs is talking about her timeline and her evolution, and she's talking about her like late teens and early 20s when she like really committed to her craft and made a commitment to trying out for the Olympics and what that looked like. And I was just thinking back of like, what was I doing in my late teens and early 20s? And there was a specific age she says that I was like, okay, yes, that was the year that I sold ecstasy so that I could pay to go live in Paris for a month. And then I went off to Paris without really telling anyone in my family. Like I kind of mentioned last minute, him going to Paris for a month, and ran out of money early from going out and drinking too much champagne and going to dance clubs. So not quite as productive as a path.
I know. I was like, Megs, like, was there any moment you went off the rails? Like, clearly, like, you had such structure and discipline for so long. And she's like, yeah, I had a bit of fun, but it clearly taught her some incredible life lessons. And I mean, I feel the same. Like, she had such clear direction of the goals that she was working towards at such a young age. She's like, okay, this is my dream. I want to get in the Olympics. And yeah, I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do for so long and had no idea. I was like, okay, well, I finished high school, so I'm just going to go backpacking around Europe for 6 months, and was just boozing and just partying and just doing whatever I wanted to do for so long. And meanwhile, Mags is getting up at 4:30 a.m., getting in the ice cold water, training. All of her like food is planned out of what she's eating, her physical activity regime, everything to the T.
I know. It's like, are you born that way or are you conditioned to be that way? Like, what makes a person at such a young age like that? I mean, I totally, like, I think it's incredible. And like I said, I pray that my daughter goes that track versus the track that I did, because God, it's amazing that I'm alive. And I can just see myself as a mother, like all the worry, because I know all the scenarios and all the things that I did that my mother will never know about.
Hope she's listening.
She doesn't want to know, I'm sure of it. But yeah, like, is that you're born that way or are you conditioned? It sounds like she had really supportive parents that like gave her the space to kind of explore and figure things out and then support her in whatever she wanted to do.
Yeah. She said she was born quite disciplined, like that. It was ingrained in her. But I think that also when you have such a clear goal, that really helps.
Yes.
Yeah. And now she's, yeah, I mean, she shares the story of missing getting into the Olympics by a fraction of a second and how she had to deal with that. You know, she was pretty traumatized, I think, and didn't get back in the pool for a long time.
Yeah.
And how she was able to deal with that mentally, physically. She talks about her struggle with body image, which, I mean, wait till you guys listen. It's kind of crazy really to think of the way as athletes, like the amount of testing and what they go through. And so they're actually, she's like, it was so detrimental of what
Oh, yeah.
was actually the level of testing that was done, because it makes you so conscious of your body fat, of everything, especially as a young girl going through your teen years. So listen for, you know, she shares her insights there and how she overcame that and the tools that she used, which it's so impressive. And where she is today now, being able to step up as a coach and help people because she's experienced it herself.
Yeah, and it's fun in hindsight, hard when you're going through it, but fun in hindsight to see like how our experiences lead us to exactly where we're supposed to be, our unique experiences. But yeah, and I can imagine it was probably a weird, lonely journey. Like being a swimmer isn't really a team sport, you know? And it's not even like a cool sport. Like, no offense, it's amazing, but it's not like one of the cool sports where like people are coming to cheer you on, and it's like there's like, you know,
She literally, oh my God, I
things
know.
going on around
She's
it.
like having wet hair, like not sexy, not cute.
Oh God, yeah, and the skin, you're in chemical pools with chemicals on your skin, and yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
sure.
admire her.
Yeah,
It's tough. For sure it's tough. And I mean, being in a pool, I think, is a whole different level. And it's so, like, so much precision of your stroke, of everything. I mean, she talks about the time that she pretty much has to hold her breath the entire time she swims. It's crazy.
dude. We had a pool in our high school, or in our school, we had a pool, and like part of PE or gym class, like there would be like a month or 6 weeks or something where it was like you're in the pool on the days that you have gym class, and it was awful. Like didn't matter, you know, you'd have, let's say you had like class at like 9 a.m. You'd have to do the swimming in the chlorinated, nasty pool. You'd have to like rush, you know, you barely any time to get ready. It was like in your, you know, when you're in 9th, 10th grade, it's like the worst thing possible. And then you like lie about having your period for basically 6 weeks. So
Fully.
you don't have to go in.
I know. I used to, same at school in PE, I used to hate swimming. That was like the one thing I didn't want to do. It was just something about getting in that school pool. Now, though, it's so crazy to think it's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're a teenage girl, it's the middle of the day. Like you don't want to mess up your hair. You don't want to you don't have time to put on your makeup. You smell like chlorine. Like you don't want to be in a bathing suit in front of and I think we had to wear like one pieces or something. Like, you know, it's not cool. It's not kosher. Like, nah.
Yeah.
I would never go back to those days.
And now I love getting in a one piece, love wearing my goggles, jumping in the ocean, because you just get something completely different out of it. I think you realize like actually how good it can make you feel. And when it's your choice.
Yeah,
It's
you
different.
you do you. But you'd be very proud of me. I did a boxing class this week while on vacation.
Wow, how be.
A girlfriend teaches and runs a boxing studio, and I did a whole boxing class, and I kicked ass. And now I'm gonna start working out again.
I bet you did. She's got that ingrained anger in her. She just need to throw down.
Yeah, I got some rage out in some surprising moments. I was like, oh, I think I've like, you know, I think I'm good. I've let go of a lot of the rage, and then, you know, a few punches in, you're just like, it comes out.
Oh, it comes out. I know. It's very healing.
Yeah, it is. So I think I'm going to take up some boxing.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's a great one. Such great exercise. So good for the core. Okay, guys, I feel like there's some juicy ones in here. I think you're going to really like it. And yeah, Megs is incredible. Megs Connor is Megs Connor, Connor, is her Instagram if you want to connect with her and ask her any more questions. Yeah, I'm excited for you guys to hear this.
Yeah, super inspirational. Thanks for this interview, Maddie, and thanks for bringing out Meg's story. Definitely, if you're listening, feel free to share this with a friend, a family member. Super inspirational, like we said. Please follow us on social media at Expanders Club. Feel free to rate and review us on whichever platform you're listening on, and DM us, email us, whatever you want. Give us feedback. We're excited to hear what is resonating, what you're liking, what is helping, what you want more of. We have some really fun episodes coming up. And so stick around. We can't wait to share all of this with you.
We're back, baby.
We're back, and we're grateful for you guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the other side of this.
Megs, Connor, whoa, what a gift to have you on the podcast.
Hi, what a gift to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on and what you just told me before, which is very exciting, your first podcast.
It is. Yeah, I feel honored to be on this.
I mean, that shocks me because honestly, I feel like your story is pretty freaking cool and I'm really excited for you to share it.
Well, as I was just saying to you, like we spend our lives as coaches talking and sharing our story and, helping others go through their own journeys. So I feel like this is just a natural progression and I'm excited to get my story out to more people in the world. And thank you, yeah, for giving me the avenue to do that.
Oh, yeah, I'm so happy to hear that. It's so true. It's like we actually can talk all day, one-on-one, helping people, and we're so confident and comfortable in that. But when it's on a podcast, like, oh my God, this is going to be public. But really, it's just you and I here having a chat, and what a great opportunity to be able to dig deep and kind of go there.
Yeah, I love that.
So I think I want to start by saying I was certainly inspired by you when I met you. I was introduced by a mutual friend of ours, Meredith, who said, you have to meet this amazing girl. She's a coach like you. She's Aussie girl. And she's also a swimmer, like a pro swimmer. And she'll want to join your swim club. And I was like, oh my God, a pro swimmer might join our swim club. So maybe let's start a bit of your background of what is an Australian girl pro swimmer doing here in the States.
Sure. Well, we can call myself a pro swammer because I've retired. So I used to be a competitive swimmer. But yeah, that was from, it was nearly 20 years. It was when I was 6 years old that I started competitive swimming. All the way through to my early 20s when I was trying for the Olympics. And it was a journey, but that took me from Australia over to Switzerland, traveling around the world, and yeah, now I'm living in LA, and I would say a hobby swimmer and a former competitive swimmer.
So, what first made you want to get into swimming?
Honestly, I think growing up in Australia, so I grew up in Sydney and as you would know, being Aussie, like everyone just learns how to swim there. You kind of have to for ocean safety. I mean, you spend your childhood growing up around a beach, just running in and out of waves. And so everyone at school goes through swimming lessons just to learn, the basics of how do I survive out in our natural backyard. And I kind of loved it. Like I loved the early days of, the swimming program you'd go through where you started with like tadpoles, then you became like a frog, then you became a marlin or whatever it was.
Yes.
I can't even remember the actual progression, but yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then I have an older brother and he was swimming for his school at some competitions, and I was a bit too young at the time. I was kind of just going along with my family, and I'd be playing in the paddle pool whilst he was racing. And I remember one competition, the girls' team was down one swimmer for their 4x50 relay. And so they were like, oh my God, we just need someone to fill in. And there was like no one about, but I was off in the like kiddies pool, you know, with a fountain and everything, just playing around. And they were just like, Megs, you need to come. We just need a fourth. Just do whatever you can do. Just jump in and swim. And I jumped in, and that was officially, I guess, my first race. I don't even know how old I was then. I must have been 5 or 6 or something. Um, and yeah, I was decent at it. I got down the other side of the pool pretty fast, and everyone was like, wow, this is cool. Do you want to do this a bit more? And I started doing some swimming and ended up loving it and had some natural talent. And it was just a journey that I went on. I joined a swim club. I was doing some other sports at the time as well, but swimming was really what called to me. And I think it was a combination of what I loved and what I was really good at.
That's such a movie script. Like, oh, they need a fourth. They call in the little tacker Megs from over in the kiddie pool, and she
Yeah.
just shines and finds her calling.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then, so how did that then lead you to trying out the Olympics?
Yeah, so I mean, as a kiddo, I was swimming. I started sort of racing competitively when I was like, I think it was like 7 or 8 years old. At state championships, went on to do sort of nationals, and I think my first big national championships in Australia was when I was 10. And yeah, I did well. Like it was a great competition. I got to meet people from all over Australia, which as a little kiddo at 10 years old was, super exciting. And soon after that, I moved over to Switzerland with my family, and wanted to keep it up, and so joined a swim team there, and eventually got selected to join the Swiss national team. And was trying for some of the competitions over in Europe, like the Junior European Championships, some of those kind of events, and basically kept going a little bit um, with swimming in Switzerland, and graduated school and went to university in England and kept it up while I was at university. I was captaining the university swim team. And upon graduating uni, I kind of, got cold feet with, I was about to start a career in banking, and I was like, I'm just not done with swimming yet. Like, I feel like there's so much more that I want to do, and not ready to sort of like close down that chapter of my life. So, to my parents' dismay, I called them up and I was like, hey, would you take me in for another couple of years? It was 2 years before Olympic trials for the Rio Games. And I was like, I want to move my life back to Australia, and I want to just give it a shot for a couple of years and really just focus on nothing but swimming and see if I can make the team. So, yeah, went back to Australia, and 2014 to 2016, joined Sydney University swim team and NSWIS. NSWIS is like the New South Wales Institute of Sport, and just dedicated everything to it for a couple of years.
That's really cool what an opportunity to be living in Switzerland, but you knew that
Yeah.
you wanted to follow your passion and something that felt right, which I
Yeah.
think is a common theme for you, because it seems that your life has taken many different pivots along the way in different cities you've lived in, which we'll get into, and different career paths.
Yeah.
And what do you think it is? Like, do you think that you've always just known to follow your intuition, or was your parents very supportive? Like, how did this come about for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I mean, my parents are awesome. They've been so supportive of me. They've never really pushed me in one direction, but they've opened up opportunities for me to dabble in different things. And I think whatever they saw that I loved and wanted to pursue, they would be hyper supportive in helping me down that path. I think for me, it was just, yeah, this like, it was intuition, as you said, and this innate desire to be at the pinnacle of what it was that I chose I wanted to pursue. And um, from a young age, that was swimming, and I'd always dreamt of becoming an Olympic swimmer. I had, people that I looked up to in that space, and role models, idols, and I wanted to be like them. And yeah, I decided to give it everything. And I think I'm always someone who I don't want to close a chapter until I feel like I've really given it my all, because I never want to live with the feeling of what if or any regrets. And so, when I was graduating uni, I still had that what if question in my head. And I knew I hadn't given it everything. And that was just like something I needed to do
Mm.
to feel like I was ready to move on to another chapter of my life.
What does giving it all look like? What did it look like for you?
What did it look like? Yeah, I mean, it was a lot, right? It was a lot of sacrifice. It was a lot of fun at the same time, though. So you sort of dive into this world of swimming and these like institutes of sports that you join, and I joined a team. I was a sprinter, so I was part of the sprint team, and we would be training, 6 hours a day. Four of those hours would be in the water. Two of those hours would be in the gym. And then alongside that, that's not all. It's not just like the physical training you do. We would see sports psychologists, we would see nutritionists, we would have to get, physical therapy to prevent injuries or to deal with any injuries. We would be going to get acupuncture. We would be focusing on sleep as well. It's like the full picture. And this has always been sort of an ethos that I've practiced and that I now preach in my coaching. But everything that goes into reaching the top 1% or being the best at whatever it is you're trying to do is important, and you let one of those buckets fall and then everything else is going to suffer as a result. So yeah, it was 6 hours a day of like physical training, but it was like a full day's worth of everything else that went into it: mental, emotional, everything else. Yeah.
I mean, that is no joke. It's like 6 hours of training, but also 4 hours of being in the water.
Yeah.
I was in the water this morning for an hour, maybe just over, and I was like, oh wow, this is exhausting. Like my body needs a break. I'm
Yeah.
starving, and you've just got to keep swimming.
Just got to keep
And
going.
it's so strenuous on your
Yeah.
body.
Swimming's grueling.
Yeah.
And as you said, like oh my God, I worked up such an appetite. Like I ate so much. I feel like you're always the hungriest when you're getting out of the water. But yeah, it's a tough sport. There's not a lot of glory in it. Some sports I think um can be a little bit more glorified. Like you might, you look cuter. Like as a tennis player, you get to wear a little cute skirt. Like as a swimmer, you're constantly just like you got goggle marks everywhere. You've got shitty hair. Like you just don't get a chance to look glam.
Oh my God, that's so true. That's so true. Literally, I was just telling you before how I feel such a dork when I've got goggle marks after swimming, which I literally have right now. And you can do nothing about it. Like
Oh
you
no.
can't just cover this up. You've got to walk around with this.
No, you got to own it. I feel like it was part of the identity. I mean, three things I remember. So I had, as I was saying, I think I have a really malleable skull. So I kind of like had permanent goggle marks on my forehead from when I put them up on my head. So that was one thing that I just had to rock. Then there's this thing called the swimmer's bun. It's like you don't have time to dry your hair or do anything, you're just rushing around. So you just whack your hair up in a bun and like put a scrunchie over it. And that was just like the look. And you look a bit disheveled, but it's the swimmer's bun. And then, the third thing, and this was my favorite by far, it's the permanent, circle tan line that you have on your back. Because we usually train in one piece. It's not like bikinis or anything because you need to have, I don't know, it's just more practical to train in a one piece. And you train outside, and I just had this like circle tan line on my back for decades. Like it was like it just never went away. You'd always just have that there. Can you imagine 4 hours a day in the sun with a one piece?
That is, yeah, absolutely. But I guess that you're right. If you own that, everyone looks at that and they're like, oh, she's a swimmer. And
yeah,
you do look like a pro.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm understanding like what you're saying about the fact that it's a sport that I do feel like it's a sport that you're in your head so much because you are just in the water. You're not talking to anyone while you're doing it. So you're really in your own head. So the idea of sports therapy, like a therapist, does feel really important. Like what was that? What did that look like?
Yeah, that was a huge component. I mean, so we worked one-on-one with a sports psychologist throughout this entire sort of, swimming journey. It was a big part of our training regimen, and it was both to deal with the stresses and the doubts and the whole mental game that goes on as you're training for something. but it was also then to help us enhance our performance when we were actually competing. So a lot of, visualization, a lot of mental resilience that needs to be built up. If you're, you do a lot of competitions in the lead up to a big swim meet. So in the lead up to Olympic trials, you do a lot of practice competitions, and you may not be where you want to be, or you might have one off day, or, all sorts of things can happen. It's like a roller coaster of a ride to get there, and you need to overcome a bad competition where you're not hitting the times that you want to hit, or you can't get too excited and let yourself, you know, expend too much energy with excitement if you have one good race, because you usually need to back up and race at semifinals and then finals, and then you need to race your next event. It's very rare that a swimmer just does like one event. So you might be doing the 50-meter freestyle, the 100-meter freestyle, the 200-meter freestyle. And if you make it through to finals, that's 9 events that you need to sort of pace yourself for. So there's so much psychology that goes into it. And it's mental training, really. It's just as important as, exercising a muscle in the gym. It's exercising your brain to be your biggest cheerleader and to put you in the right frame of mind to be the best athlete that you can be.
Oh my gosh, wow. I think such an incredible experience for you to have had that training young. Like, what a
Yeah.
way to prepare you now for life.
Yeah, totally. I'm so grateful for that in my upbringing, and I think it was just such an integral part of who I am, and it's shaped me for so many things, not just sports, for how I approach career, how I approach relationships. It's a really great skill to have learned at a young age.
Would you say that you were a disciplined person before?
Yeah, I think I've always been hyper disciplined. Like even when I was 10 years old, so I had this like we call sweets in Australia lollies. So I had like a lolly box. And I'd get,
Yes.
the party bags from my friends' birthday parties where you get your little you get a few lollies in there, maybe some chocolate bars. And even when I was like 9, 10 years old, I would save all of those in this big lolly box until after nationals, because I was like, I don't want to, I'm going to be really disciplined. This is like, I'm training up for this, and I'm going to really enjoy myself afterwards. But for now, I'm not going to eat it. And if my dad
Wow.
ever listens to this, he's going to laugh, because I think one day he accidentally threw it out or something. And I still have never forgiven him for that, because I was like, I'm the most disciplined 10-year-old in the world, not eating any of my lollies, and the lolly box goes missing? Excuse me?
No, you've been waiting for that, the
I
reward that you've
know, it
been
was the
so
reward.
disciplined. That's so funny. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, your dad surely felt so bad about that.
I think he still does to this day. I'm gonna hold it over him. I'm never gonna let let that one slip. But
I understand, that reward is so important.
yeah, but it was, yeah, like things like that, and also just, waking up early. We'd wake up at 4:30 to go training in the morning. We would have to go to bed really early. You'd have to forego a ton of social engagements. I'm speaking sort of later on as you're entering your teenage years, and all your other friends are starting to go out and party, and like that. That just wasn't on the cards for me for a long time. So I had to be pretty disciplined about like a lot of my lifestyle.
What has that meant for you as you've grown up? Was there ever a time that you were just like went off the rails and you're like, I need my time now?
I had fun at university. I didn't like hold back. It was very much I would say I ramped up the social, I ramped up the studying, and I also maybe took back the swimming a little bit for a few years.
Mm,
But I'd still, I'd still be training a ton, and still focusing on health and, fitness and everything. So, I don't think I ever really like went off the rails, but I have definitely decided to live a life of, I've been trying to live a life of more instant gratification, because I think I lived so many years of delayed gratification
mm.
in some aspects of my life, like tons of gratification from swimming, but some things I would just put off and or have to sacrifice. And so now I definitely try to be more balanced and get enjoyment and live in the present with everything.
I mean, I feel like you do a very good life. You're always traveling, you're always doing fun activities, which I now see you deserve that. Like, you worked hard and focused for a lot and made a lot of sacrifices, and it's like now you get to enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that. I think, a lot of what I've done in my early life and in the early stages of my career has been to kind of set myself up for this now, and to be able to live a life that is really the one that I want. Like sometimes, I think I've always been good at sort of saying, upfront pain for long-term gain. And so if I need to
Mm.
suck something up for a few months, a few years, because I know that it's going to help me be happier, be freer, be whatever it is in the future. Like I'm pretty good at doing that, and yeah, I think I'm really happy with where I'm at in my life now. So I'm glad it looks like a good life on the outside.
It's a great life, girl. It's a great life. So just going in a step by step chronological order of your life, because this
Yeah.
is interesting. We're going to get to where you are now. But what was, do you want to talk about what happened when going into trialing for the Olympics?
Yeah. So, as I said, sort of moved my life back, kind of like reneged on the job offer that I had to go into banking, moved my life back to Australia, and moved back in with my parents at that age, and just dedicated everything to swimming for a few years leading up to trials. And I loved it. I had a great team. I formed some incredible friendships and bonds that I'm going to have with me for the rest of my life. And it was going really well. Halfway through that journey, so 1 year in 2015, I made it to world champs. And that was just so exciting for me. It was like the Olympics is always what you aspire to as a swimmer. That's sort of like the highest competition that you can reach. But getting to the world championships was just unbelievable. That was a dream come true in and of itself. That was in Russia. I don't think I ever would have gone to Kazan, Russia otherwise, but that was one of the great things about swimming is it took you to weird and wacky places. You got to meet crazy people from all over the world. And yeah, then in the lead up to the Olympics, I just, kept focusing on training. Um, Obviously, I had a few setbacks. I was in a car accident, which wasn't that helpful for, I basically just
No.
like my shoulder moved completely out of place, and so I was dealing with injury. But everyone does. Everyone deals with injury and with sickness, and it's all just part of the journey, and things you need to overcome. And yeah, going into trials, I felt good. I was really excited, but ended up missing the team by just a fraction of a second, and it was heartbreaking. But to my earlier comment, I was still happy that I decided to do everything. I had no regrets. I knew that I could then close that swimming chapter and say, I really just have given it my all, and there's no more what ifs. It was like, this is the best I was ever going to be in the sport. And I was ready to then move on to new challenges. But it was definitely a bittersweet end to that
Yeah.
journey.
Wow. So incredible for you to have that outlook. And I imagine, the fact that you were that person, you're like, I'm going to give it my absolute best. And you did, and you can then you can happily walk away.
Yeah,
That's all you can do, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah,
you can't
exactly.
dwell.
Can't
I mean,
dwell
no
on it.
doubt.
Like, I would have had I would have had more regrets if I had never given it a shot and I kind of, just dabbled a little bit. And, I'd been training my entire life, but
Mhm.
I never really sort of focused everything on that. So I'm so glad. And in hindsight now, it was definitely a tough few years after retiring from swimming. A lot of adjustment to civilian life, a lot of, it took a big toll to my confidence, who I thought I was, what I thought I could achieve. So many emotions to overcome, and it took way longer than I expected to overcome them. But looking back now, so many years on, I just look back at that chapter of my life with extreme fondness.
How do you think you did overcome it?
It was a journey. I mean, I don't think I did a very good job at it right at the start. Right at the start, I was grappling with so many things. I was grappling with shame, with the feelings of letting down all the people that had supported me to get to where I was. I had a lot of judgment on I put a lot of judgment on myself. Struggled with body image, with so many different things, and I think It was a combination of time. It was a combination of working with my own coach at the time. I don't mean my swimming coach, but like a life coach to work through all of those emotions and focus my life, turn it around and focus on new challenges and new things that I wanted to achieve and learn how to get gratification from that. And be more, I guess, like forward looking as opposed to just like stuck in this past stage of my life. So that was really instrumental in turning things around. And support from friends and family, telling me, giving me the affirmations that I needed, that I had given it everything. I still had accomplished a ton, like getting to the world championships is not insignificant. And that's still a great accomplishment. And learning to find joy in other things. I think I loved being able to push myself so hard in one thing and chasing that goal that it took a while for me to readjust and find enjoyment in fitness and find enjoyment in staying healthy, that when it wasn't in order to become an Olympian, it was just in order to feel good and be who I intrinsically am, which is like a outdoorsy, fit kind of person. I just had to relearn that.
Wow, so much here. What do you think that now your movement and exercise looks like? Do you dedicate to any one sport?
Not any one sport. I have a few sports that I love. I love skiing. I love playing tennis, and I am learning. I'm a very enthusiastic surfer. I would say I'm not the best surfer, but I really love it. So those are kind of like the three sports that I love doing, and but otherwise just like a lot of movement. So I weight lift in the gym. I go on a lot of walks. I just feel really good when I move my body and do it in a variety of different ways. And I think that's one of the great things that retiring from swimming has enabled me to do. And it is find enjoyment in so many different sports. Like I don't have to just be singularly focused on swimming as one thing. Now I can ski, I can surf, I can hike on a day that I feel like it. I can do whatever I want to do. And that variety is really nice and refreshing.
Yeah. What does it take to get you back in the pool now?
It took me a long time to get back into swimming. And when I was living in Sydney, there were a few groups that I joined, some ocean swimming groups, because it was a little bit different to swimming in the pool and looking at the black line. And this is how we really sort of bonded, Mads. You have brought together an incredible community of people that want to swim or are interested in it, or just get enjoyment from being part of a community that values waking up early, getting out into the ocean, just what that does for you, not just your body, but what it does for your mind, what it does for your friendships. And I think having a group and surrounding yourself with people that are into the same things, that just helps so much. Like that, I don't even think about it then as like, I don't think about my past chapter of swimming. I think about how fun it is to get out in the ocean and swim with people like you.
I love that. Thank you. You're right. Having that common interest and being able to do it together as like a group of friends that's encouraging of one another, and it's in a very, motivating, inspiring environment, is just, you can't beat that feeling. It's like less of a solo sport. Like even when you think of surfing, like you go out, that's such a solo, selfish sport. You're going out and only you are catching that wave.
Yes. Yeah.
Unless you're sharing a party wave with your friends,
Party
which
waves
is
are the best.
so much more fun. And so to go out and do it with friends, it just, it makes it so much more approachable and fun.
It really does. Yeah, and I've always thought, these sports, like swimming, everyone says is a solo sport. Like it really isn't at the end of the day. Like, it's you in the lane racing, or it's you swimming out there in the ocean with your head down. But it is a team. It takes a village, takes a team to help you on that journey, to motivate you, to make it fun. Like I loved all my teammates that I used to train with, and with ocean swimming now, it's like it's great to see someone's, like a little kick over there. You're like, okay, it's not just me out here in the big wide ocean. There's someone else out there, and then we all stop and look at the sunrise or something together, and That is the real enjoyment, I think.
I know, it's so good. Sometimes when you're out swimming in the ocean and maybe you've gone in with a group, but then you look up and you've lost everyone, there's always this moment of like, oh my God, no, where is everyone? But a couple of weekends ago, our swim crew swam from Venice Pier to Santa Monica Pier, which is
Oh,
three.
that's amazing.
I know, I was so impressed, 3 miles. And I decided to stand up paddleboard alongside
Oh,
them and
yes.
be their beacon.
Love
And
it.
it was so cool being able to stand up on the paddleboard while looking out and seeing all the swimmers. Because as we got closer to Santa Monica, Tower 26, so many swimmers are out there on a Saturday morning. And
Yeah.
I could just see above all of the ocean swimmers. And I
Amazing.
just felt so much unity in my heart. Like, wow, look at all these people what they have in common is this passion for swimming in the ocean. They're
Yeah.
choosing to do this on their Saturday morning for fun.
Yeah.
And literally, I was just making friends in the ocean, recruiting people to our swim club. And now we've got this crossover with this Venice swim crew and this Santa Monica swim crew. And I'm so happy to just be able to keep finding more people that share that passion.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we've got to spread the word. It's one of the best things. It's a great way to start the day, to get out in the ocean. Like, I love that you're expanding the group and swimming to Santa Monica. That's not an easy feat. That's awesome.
It's no joke. And I do want to put it out there, Megs, and I do want your help on this one, but I
Yeah.
have a dream. And
Okay.
my dream is for this summer for us to get 100 people to Venice Swim Crew.
Wow, I love it. I
I mean,
love it.
granted, we're at the moment through winter, we were lucky to make 10 people come out. Now
Yeah.
we're probably like 12 to 15 people is a good showing. So 100?
100 this summer. I think you can do it. I'll help spread the word. Whatever I can do, I think that's possible. You know, winter's tough. Winter's cold here.
It's tough.
It's really cold, and kudos to everyone that gets out there because there's such a mental challenge in doing that. But I mean, the summertime here in LA at the beaches, it's dreamy. I reckon I back you to do that. I think you've got
Yeah,
it.
thank you, girl. Thank you. This has actually made me think of something because you're right. I mean, summer right now is peak season. The water's
Yeah.
warm, the air's warm. It's easy to get out there. Like if there's any time to get out and swim, it's now.
Yeah.
But middle of winter, it is so mentally and physically challenging. And as we went into the winter season this year with the swim crew,
Yeah.
we said, this was the first winter we decided to swim.
Yeah.
We said, this is where legends are made. This is
Yes.
where we really prove that we can do hard things and that we're
Yes.
tough, we can handle the cold, and it will be so much more worth it when we get to summer. We'll be so proud of ourselves.
Yeah.
But I know that I have to have a bit of a mantra in my head to help myself get through.
Totally.
And I wanted to ask you if that was something that you had to form, or what was some of the tools that you had to get through mentally and physically?
Yeah. So I mean, winter was also tough for training, right? You're waking up, it's pitch black outside. I had some tools. So as I said, we worked with a sports psychologist, and visualization was really powerful for us. So I would write little notes of things I wanted to achieve and stick them all over the house. Like, sorry, mum and dad, there was just like awful, little bits of scraggly paper just stuck on all the walls. But that was really important to me. It was like I saw something the minute I got out of bed, I would look at this like something I've written to myself. It could have been the time that I wanted to accomplish, or it could have been the team that I wanted to make. Like, that was a huge thing for me. I had a song that I had as my alarm that would get me up and get me grooving, and it was Earth, Wind and Fire, September. So what a
It's the
tune!
best track.
What a
One that
tune.
gets me on the dance floor every time.
Totally. So just like little tools that would help you, right? It's like, what's going to get you up and get you motivated? What's going to keep you going throughout the day? What are things you can, and not just things you can do, but what are things you can eliminate? Like, I would take things away that would be, temptations and distractions. Just because if it's out of sight, it's out of mind, right? Like, so in phases of my life when I had to be super diligent with like nutrition, I wouldn't have anything lying around that could tempt me. And if it wasn't there, like, I wouldn't really be thinking about it. So yeah, I think there's so many tools of things you can do and things you can not do to help you get through the mental challenges in anything you're trying to achieve.
They're really good tactics. I do like that, like out of sight, out of mind. Like if
Mhm.
you've got it there, if you've got it in the house, of course you're going to want to eat it. Like if
Yeah.
I know that I have certain snacks in the cupboard, I'm so much more likely to eat it. I'm like, I'm just gonna eat this because then once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
But like you eat it and you're probably gonna buy it again.
Yeah.
So having that control from the get-go, setting yourself up for success instead of making it harder. Because when you're feeling in times of weakness, in times of tiredness, in times of stress, it's so easy to reach for the snack or reach for your phone because you want a distraction or to feel better. But if that's not
Absolutely.
there, it's like because our reflex is like that's harder to control than if it's just like not even allowing ourselves to have that reflex.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So those things are all super important. And then as I said, it comes back to community as well. Like I would wake up at 4:30 and I'd know my teammates would be there counting on me, depending on me to be there as well with them, and also making it more fun. Like we'd all, rock up on pool deck and just both, we'd be dreary-eyed, but we'd catch up with each other, and like that was a big, big draw. That was something that made it so much easier. It's the same as like, if you want to get up and go surfing in the morning, it's so good to have a buddy to go surfing with because, they're going to be freezing as well, trying to get into their wetsuit. Like it's this shared pain is shared joy,
So true. No, accountability is such a good one. It's so true. Having that community that will, they'll show up. And when they're showing up, it's this expectation like, okay, cool. They're doing it. I can do this.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the Olympics doesn't happen. But by the way, can I just quickly go back to becoming a world champ? Like, what do you have to do to become a world champ?
So, in terms of training, you mean, or?
Or yeah, like how do you qualify? Like, what are you one of how many people out of a country, etc.?
Yeah. So per event, they usually take 2 people per event per country, and then relays are 4. So 4 people for a relay, but then so there's kind of like 2 big hurdles in swimming. You need to be at the top of your class, so meaning the top 2 or the top 4, but then you also need to make a universal time. So so FINA swimming would set a time that is like the benchmark, and you need to at least make that. So there's kind of 2 hurdles to overcome. So you both need to have shown that you can compete at a certain level by reaching that standard, by reaching that time that they set. It's called the qualifying time every year. But then there might be 10 people that get under that time, so you still need to be in the top 2. Or there might be no one that makes that time, and that country wouldn't take someone in that discipline or in that event. So there's 2 hurdles to get there. Yeah.
What was your distance that you would swim?
I was a hardcore sprinter, so the shorter the better for me. So 50-meter freestyle was my main event, and if they had a 25 meters, I would have loved that, but they didn't. So 50 meters and 100 meters freestyle. Hundreds were really good for relay events because the relays are all at 4x1, 4x100.
Not that this I'll probably have anything to compare this to, but I do want to know what would be your time for a 50-meter sprint.
Yeah, so 50 meters long course, 25.0. So 25 seconds flat.
25 seconds flat.
Yeah.
You were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, all I know is that is very fast.
We weren't allowed to breathe in a 50-meter sprint because you're wasting time if you sort of turn your head and you breathe. So just like the faster you can get to the other end, the better, because then you can start breathing again. So.
Oh, you were not allowed to have a breath?
No, you try. Well, I mean, you try not to, right? So like the goal is to keep your head down. So for 50 meters, for 100 meters, it's different. But 50 meters is just pure, max effort, anaerobic. You just don't breathe.
And so there was clearly a lot of lung training. Like, how long did you have to hold your breath for?
We never actually timed it, so I don't really know how long I could hold my breath for at the time, but we would do a lot of work with, staying underwater. That's also, hyper efficient to stay underwater as long as you can to the 15-meter mark where you have to come up. But we would do a lot of, in training, we would do a lot of 50 meters, 50 meters underwater, just back and forth, just to build up that lung capacity, to practice your underwater kick, which is the fastest thing. And that was what I loved. I loved doing the underwater kick. So if they had a 25-meter underwater event, oh my God, I think I may have made it. That would have been my event.
That would be your event. Yes, you would nail that. I want to see you do this, see you in action.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Megs, I mean, I'm literally would love nothing more than to do a training session with you because I just see other swimmers and I think, okay, I feel like I'm fit. I feel like I'm strong. I feel like I've been told in the past I've got a swimmer body, but I just can't seem to swim as fast as anyone. And
You are fast. What do you mean?
I mean, I'm not even here to get compliments. Like, I genuinely am just like, how do I get better?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard ocean swimming as well. Like, that's a whole different sport. I feel like technique is different in an ocean than it is in the pool. Like, the pool is like the hyper optimized form of water to swim in, right? It's like the temperature is really well regulated. It's still, if you swim, that's why they have that black line, because if you swim like directly above the black line, you're reducing the amount of drag you get from other swimmers and from the lane ropes and everything. So it's a very like pristine way to swim. In the ocean, it's so much harder. You're battling so many different elements.
You're right. You're right. It is a totally different style of swimming, as in the way that you're having to just manage the waves, etc. But I
Yeah.
think just to get the stroke like really down pat is something that
Yeah, well,
would.
let's go out. I'm happy to give you a few pointers on your stroke if next time we go for a swim.
Wow, hear that, guys? I am getting training from a world champ. Watch out, swim club. Maddie's coming in hot. Okay, amazing. So then what happens after you decide to
Retire,
retire? Thank
throw
you.
in the goggles, throw in the towel. Yeah, so I just finished up my master's. I did like a master's of management. And so I started working in management consulting. That was so to me, that was like the Olympics of a career for me, like getting into one of the big management consulting firms. I joined McKinsey, and that was like a huge thing for my career. And I really was so, so, so excited for that. So I kind of did the interviews, and it was a year before I started, and they have like cohorts that start. So in the 4 months leading up to that, I just took some time off. I went traveling. I went on a solo backpacking trip around South America, which was just everything I needed and wanted at that stage in my life. I just wanted to get out there and not have to worry about a training regime. Just I didn't have anything to answer for. And I knew I had a job that I was excited about and was going to start on the back end of it. So I just did 4 months of travel.
Oh.
And then I started my career in management consulting. So just dove headfirst into that. And that was my new pool to tackle.
I mean, how did you go transitioning into a 9 to 5, an office life after the life you
Yeah. I mean, it was tough. I think in many ways, I would say, I think if people heard, and my friends from McKinsey heard me saying it was a 9 to 5, they would laugh. It was very much a 9 till midnight or 2 in the morning kind of vibe. It was tough hours. And so in some ways, I didn't really have a lot of time to think about it. It was just like, it was almost like I was back training again, but this time it was for my career. It was learning the ropes for how to do management consulting, how to speak to executives around the world, how to upskill quickly in an industry you've never worked in. Like all these things were there were a new set of challenges that I think I saw as, a way to channel my energy and channel my focus. I'd been going after this Olympic goal for so long, and now this was like a new goal that I was working on in my life. But there were definitely adjustments as well. And I think in similar ways, the same kind of toolkit that I said I used in swimming came into handy here as well. It was a community of people that I was going through that with. It was everyone that started with me in my cohort. I have got some of my best friends to this day are people that I started that year at McKinsey with, and we went through the same things. We were learning the ropes together. We were traveling the world together. Did a lot of travel with the job, and it was super exciting to begin with. Living out of a suitcase, living in a hotel, that got old very quickly, but. So that helped. Discipline helped, doing everything to keep yourself healthy alongside it so that you could be the best in achieving your goal. So making sure, you're working grueling hours, but you got to focus on eating well, trying to get as much sleep as possible. Like all these other things I think were really important and were a challenge, definitely.
Yeah. So what happened? I mean, obviously working those hours, you probably got to a stage where this took a toll.
Yeah. Yeah. So I spent about like 2.5 years there, and loved it. But, uh, when I reached that stage, it just seemed unsustainable. Like I was
Mm.
not prioritizing the things that I knew were really important to me. Like it was a great place to springboard my career, but I'd let my health slip for sure. I'd let my relationship slip. Like being on the road all the time, I couldn't really be around to sustain and invest in friendships and relationships. And um, I think I had come out of this journey where, this whole life, and I was at the peak of my fitness and health and wellness. And I definitely, that took a back seat when I was in consulting. And so I needed to find something new. And um, I still was ambitious. I wanted to achieve things with my career, but I needed a bit more balance. And so after that, I moved my life over I was based out of Sydney, and I moved to Perth, Western Australia, very remote part of Australia on the West Coast, and joined a philanthropy for a few years and worked as their head of strategy, helping them expand overseas. So did that for a while, and then decided it was just time to shake things up again. I think I've always wanted to, shake things up and try something new, and America was really calling out to me. And so I decided to just move my life out to America and build a life here, start a new career, build a life. I went into tech for a little while I was figuring things out, again, to learn the ropes of building a business. And I had to find my feet and figure out where I was going to live. I tried New York for a little while and missed the beach and missed the weather and the healthy lifestyle, everything that I've been, yearning for and is so core to who I am. And so I've ended up in LA, which is dreamland.
Oh, I know, it really is a dreamland. But cool that you got to experience New York, because I
Yeah.
think that's something that I mean, I speak for other people, that I always wanted to experience.
Yeah.
And then I got to a stage once I got so ingrained in this healthy lifestyle that we have access to here in California, it's
Yeah.
really hard to the idea of going back to New York after that and living this like very high vibration life of like work, play,
Yeah.
hard, nonstop, going out to dinners. It's like everyone's talking about how hard they're working, how much money they're earning,
Yeah.
how much they're jamming in and going straight to dinner to drinks to work the next day.
Yeah.
And that is like, especially coming from your background of knowing how important it is to look after your health,
Yeah.
it's just so unsustainable.
Oh, it's so unsustainable. Like I loved my stint in New York, and it's always going to be, one of the greatest cities in the world. And I get so
Mm.
much energy going there, but on the day to day, it's hard to sustain that pace and that societal pressure to keep going and keep doing things. And I take my hat off to anyone who can manage that, because I think one of the hard things I've learned over the years from swimming and from early stages of my career is it's equally important to have that downside, to have the rest, to
Mm.
have the recovery. That is just as important, if not more, to peak performance in whatever it is you're trying to achieve than the actual training and the doing of reps and, things itself. That is what I think the lifestyle in LA and in California, it makes it easy for you here because you see other people doing it.
Mm.
Just the way of living here makes that a lot more accessible and a lot easier. And I certainly love that aspect of being in LA.
Yeah, and I think we talk about this a lot, or at least recently. The idea of the hustle culture
Yeah.
is not it's not okay, and it's not real, and it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And especially as women learning about our cycles and knowing that we can be at such different times in our month of the energy that we have to put out. And
Totally.
I cannot believe that I'm only learning about this in my, early 30s, that I'm actually finally learning about my cycle.
Yeah.
And I know now, as I'm like in my follicular stage right now, which I'm like ready to go. So this week I tried doing a much harder swim this week and a harder run. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I can push my body and I'm feeling good. But knowing the times that you need to nurture and ground down and rest, because if you push yourself too hard, then that's when you get sick, and then that holds you back a week. So it's like really getting in flow with that so that you know that your output
100%. Yeah. And I think it's really tough. And this is something I work on with my clients with the sort of health and wellness coaching. Um, you gotta, you gotta try and remove yourself from all the information that's out there, all the things you see, particularly on social media, because that's like, it's a static point in time. You might see someone working out like crazy, right? And you're like, okay, they look like this, therefore I must do what they do and what they're posting about. But what you don't see is the full picture. And that's why in all of my coaching, it's holistic. It's you really need the full picture. You need to be able to see what they do off camera, what they do in their rest phases, what they do in the weeks that they're not filming and posting, right? Like
So true.
it's so warped what we see out there because it's only just a fraction of reality for every single person. And everyone is going through a cycle. We're talking about a menstrual cycle here, but there's so many more cycles than that. There's
Yeah.
emotional cycles. There's phase of life cycles. Like you might be dealing with a really stressful phase in your career, or you might be dealing with a really stressful phase in your relationship, or whatever it could be. And we live long lives. I mean, hopefully we do, right? That's what we're all aiming for. So it can't be, full pedal down to the floor, like full gas, like the entire time. Like you've really got to learn how to navigate your own ups and downs in every single bucket of your life and look holistically at what's going on.
Yeah, you're so right. I love what you're saying because it is so true that what we see online on social media is these lives that are portrayed where people are just doing all the things. They're
Yeah.
going. They're eating amazing food, they're doing exercise, they're doing all the activities, they're socializing, they're doing all of that. And I can even speak to both yours and my Instagrams because when we look at it, it looks like we're living these very
Yeah.
extravagant lifestyles that we're just go. But it is so important to speak to the rest time, the downtime, and also the balance. Like, I'm also not always eating perfect.
Yeah.
Because if I was always eating perfect, then I find if I go so far one way, I come so far back the other way and end up
Totally.
then overindulging. I don't know if, you speak to and clearly learned from a young age through your training and your coaching to live a very balanced life. What is like the reality of that for you?
Yeah. I mean, the reality is it wasn't always balanced, right? Like I certainly in the lead up to the Olympics, I think I went too cold turkey on some things and I was so hyper diligent about like I'm just going to eat like chicken breast with no sauce and like just be lean, and it was constantly for a sprinter it was all about power to weight, so I was always trying to get stronger but be as light as possible, and I definitely didn't navigate that as well as I should have, and that's something it's taken me so many years of working with nutritionists and learning on my own and trial and error to figure out. So I think one principle that I try to adopt now, and I preach to all of my coaching clients, is let's not be, let's not draw such hard lines. Let's be kind to ourselves and let's take a very balanced approach. And yeah, maybe 80% of the time you don't want to be eating junk food and fries and drinking and doing all these kinds of things, but it's so important to let yourself have that 20% of enjoyment because it's going to make things sustainable. And for me, the biggest thing that I'm trying to help my clients do is to make their health and fitness and wellness journeys sustainable. And that's got to do with figuring out what works for you. It's so important that it's personalized and it's not just what you're seeing someone else do on social media. And it's also so important that you're letting yourself have the enjoyments, the pleasures, the joys that are really important to you. Like I had a friend the other day who's now become a client say like, oh, like you eat bread? Like, and yeah, I eat bread. I love bread. Like that's
Oh my gosh.
it. The carbs work. I know how to eat them, when to eat them. I love them. And if I were to cut bread out of my diet, I'd be miserable. So
Yeah.
you need to be able to fuel not just your body, your mind, your soul as well. It's like what's going to make you feel really good. And one thing I'll never do again is go cold turkey on anything because like I cut a lot out of my diet, and as you would know as well from your background, like the gut microbiome is so complex, and I completely altered my gut microbiome. So things I could tolerate in my early life, I for a while was completely unable to tolerate. It would cause me the worst gut issues and would have such strong knock-on effects to my mood, to my, sleep, to everything else. And so I think just taking a more balanced and sustainable approach in everything is so important.
No, you're so right. You're so right. And people just think, oh my God, I can't eat any of that. Like, if you cut out carbs, you would be so weak. You would lack
Yeah.
energy. It is just, you need all of your macros. Like,
Yeah.
carbohydrates is such an important factor. And I completely agree. The times that I've taken it out the most is actually when I've suffered the most, because then
Yeah.
I'll end up overindulging like the next week, the next month, to make up for that lack of energy. So if you can just find, by integrating carbohydrates into your diet, for example, we're talking about carbohydrates, in a way that's so sustainable, and you're speaking to like the time or like how you eat it, like what would you say that you've figured out in terms of consuming carbohydrates for yourself?
Yeah, so I think it depends on, again, like as I said, everything's holistic, right? So it depends on what else I'm doing in my life. So if I'm about to go on a, 6 hour backcountry ski mission, like I'm 100% going to fuel my body with some carbs. Like I'm going to need it, I'm going to burn it. Um, I think it's the type of carbohydrates that you eat. It's like you want complex carbs. It's when you eat it, depending on what you're doing with your day. Like if I'm going to be super sedentary, which I try to never be, but if for some reason you are, like maybe I'll adjust that accordingly. I think it's really got to fit into the big picture of what you're trying to achieve. Are you working towards a specific goal? Are you maybe training for a competition in something? Like what's your health and wellness and fitness goals? What are your activity levels going to be like that day? What type of carbohydrate are you eating? What are you balancing it with? What are you pairing it with? I think there's so many different things like timing of day that are important. And I almost don't even want to say like what I do right now because, as I said, it's so individual, right? Like I don't want to say to someone that this is when I eat bread or this is when I do something, because I don't want anyone else to latch onto that and say, okay, well, because Megs did it, I can do it.
I agree. And I do the same with my clients. Like, to tell your own individual journey and exactly what you eat is not necessarily going to work for everyone.
Yeah,
and it is so
exactly.
dependent on your activity levels, like what you're actually physically exerting in a day
Yeah,
and when you are. I mean, obviously I would say that eating carbs earlier in the day would be probably better for you. But it's like you still have to feel it in your body. People
yeah,
are fasting the whole first part of the day and they're only eating in the second part of the day. So they
yeah,
need to get it in the second half. So,
exactly.
yeah, you're right. That individualistic mindset of actually like working with a client and being like, okay, tell me like what does your lifestyle currently look like? What does your diet currently look like? And
Yeah,
how does it make you feel?
exactly. It's a lot about how you feel, and that's what I think wellness is as well. It's not just like a number on a scale. It's not even just what you look like in the mirror necessarily. Like sometimes I feel way better when I maybe don't look as good or whatever, you've got to find your tipping points and your balance and what works for you. And I think what I want to do as a coach is role model that you can do all the things, enjoy all the things that you want. If you can find the right way to fit them into your regime and balance them, without prescribing any of that, right? I want to be able to show my clients, yes, I eat like this. I do this kind of activity. Some days I don't do anything. Some days I do a ton. Like, I just want to role model that everything is possible. And I don't want people to feel like they have to be hyper restrictive in any one thing, because I have spent too many years of my life being hyper restrictive. And that usually leads to binging or overcorrecting in some way that tends to be unhealthy. And having that more sustainable, like day to day, where you give yourself some joys, but you take a healthy approach to how you live, is what's going to carry you through and be the most sustainable in the long run.
I know you mentioned before that you had experienced some issues with body image, and I'm so interested to know what that was to you and what that was like.
Yeah, so it was tough. So this was part of the training regime, part of the institute's sort of protocols when I was training for the Olympics, and there's something I definitely don't actually think is effective and is way more detrimental than it is helpful. So I would never preach this. But we every day on pool deck before we got into the water, we would do something called skin folds. Skin folds is where you basically there's 7 different parts of your body and they measure how much you can sort of like you pinch your skin and how many millimeters are there, right? And then you'd get that kind of reading and it was detrimental to my mental health to have that done. And like particularly, I mean, we're women as well. Like we skin our bodies after we fluctuate depending on, what stage of our hormonal cycle we're in and maybe and we also need fat to protect our organs, to be, have a healthy reproductive system. Like this is just to be completely open with my journey. Like I suffered from amenorrhea for a few years. Like I completely lost my menstrual cycle for a few years. And that was because I think I had over indexed on so many things and was maybe underweight and too thin and didn't have enough fat in my body. And it was largely driven by some of these practices that we did, like the squeezing of, your stomach. It was something that I did for 2 years post retiring from swimming. I would eat a meal and then I'd instantly just squeeze my stomach to see like, okay, what's there? And of course that was so unhealthy, but also didn't make any sense. Like 2 seconds after you swallow something, you're not going to be able to translate it to body fat, right? So all these different things I think were just like very challenging for me. And I had to overcome that. I had to learn how to feel my body correctly. I had to also learn to just embrace the joy and then the gratification of having a feminine body. I think, when I was swimming, I kind of joke sometimes now. I was like a little boy. Like I looked so different to the way I do today because I was so lean. I, didn't have any curves, like none of this, because you're training yourself to the point where you have almost no body fat. And I learned to just love my body and feel better being a bit feminine. And that meant gaining a little bit of weight and gaining a little bit of fat. And honestly, feel infinitely better now, like having gone through that journey. But it was a tough one to go through.
Thank you for sharing. That's really wild to think that that was a standard procedure for any young children, but especially young girls, because it is so important. I always battled with I always thought that I had a bigger tummy, and I really, really struggled with that just because of the body image that we gain from seeing what's out there.
Totally.
And we all think that having a flat stomach is what we should have.
Yeah.
But as women, like we have reproductive organs. We are growing and birthing a child, and like that we do have to protect that. And having that extra layer is so healthy.
So healthy.
And hearing what you're saying is just making me realize how many children, how many young girls, teenagers, adults would struggle with body image just based on what's put out there today. And that learning to love your body and love it for what we say flaws, they're not flaws, it's just for us and how we are, is probably the most empowering and freeing thing you can do.
I completely agree. And one approach I've taken in my own health journey and that I preach to my clients as well is figure out like what your goal is. And the goal shouldn't be get a flat tummy or lose X amount of pounds. It should be, what do you want to use your body for? And for me, my goals is like, I would love to have a child one day. I also want to be able to be strong enough to surf. Like I'm on this surfing journey and my body is this incredible vehicle that lets me catch a wave or it lets me go down like a ski slope. And so everything I'm training for is to allow my body to do these things that I want it to do, not just now, but also when I'm like 80 years old. Like I want to be an old granny ripping it down the ski slopes. Like that's a goal for me. So my training now is setting myself up for that. What the byproduct of all of that falls out of it might be a flat stomach, might be toned biceps, all that stuff I think should be seen as like byproducts, not the goals in and of themselves. It's like, what do you love your body for and what do you want it to be able to do? And that's what I'm going to help you achieve through, coaching on all everything, exercise, preventative, all things preventative, right? Preventative movement, stretching, rehab, diet, everything like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, really good message. How can we set our bodies up for the longevity of the things that we want to achieve long term?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I always think. Like, how can I keep my body so healthy, so active that I can bear children and then keep up with those kids and be able to do all of the activities with them long into my life, their life.
100%.
And that feels like the most important thing.
Couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. That's the ultimate goal.
That's the goal. Okay, Megs, full circle. We have been on the journey of your incredibly powerful life, all of the barriers, all of the obstacles you've got through. And now I'd love to ask you the final question. Can you describe in one word or a sentence your past self, your present self, and your future self?
Oh my God, that's such a great question. So I would say my past self, I'd choose the word binary. I think I lived my life in a very binary way. I'd either be doing something to the fullest or like not at all. I was at peak fitness or I wasn't doing anything. Even with relationships, we were like best friends or we were acquaintances. Like my life in the past was very binary. And I've worked really hard to try to create more of a spectrum because I think, as I said, that's so much healthier than living this binary life. My present life, I would say excited. I'm building things. I'm really excited about the businesses that I'm building, the directions I'm going in, and also the the opportunity to impact people's lives and their journeys in very tangible ways and work one-on-one and with people on their own journey in a similar way that I went through. I'm really excited about that. And then future self, I would say optimistic. I think you have to be. I think one thing I've kind of had going for me throughout my whole life is I back myself and I'm optimistic about the things that I'm doing. And I think having that kind of outlook on what it is you're trying to go after is really, really important. And then I'm also optimistic. I think that the type of things that the type of impact I'm trying to make in the world, the things I'm trying to coach people on, they're being more talked about. They're being better received. Like there are so many more people that are receptive to the types of advice and everything that I'm trying to preach and trying to coach. I'm just really optimistic about where the world is heading in the fields that I'm really passionate about. And I think that there's this incredible timing of like, this is what I've found my way to do this type of work. And then there's so much more of the world is receptive to receiving it. And I'm optimistic about what things can be accomplished.
Oh my gosh, beautiful answer. Beautiful. Oh, I love that. Thank you. Thank you. It was so good to hear about your journey. Thank you for sharing. Just so inspiring, just to hear your story and the way that you've overcome everything along the way and the way that you're able to maintain this, optimistic outlook. And it's exciting. It's like everything that you've learned all has come together in this like beautiful trajectory now and set you on this path that you're on now, here helping people from everything you've learned. And I'm inspired.
Thanks, Mads. It's been so good chatting about all of this. Thank you for having me on here. And I'm excited to also get a group of 100 people out there in the ocean together this summer. Let's do it.
Said here, folks. Hear that. 100 people venison through this summer. It's happening. The word's out. All right. Thanks,
Love
Megs.
it. Thanks.
Appreciate you.